Discover the sinister truth, 7 haunting secrets revealed only at midnight. Press play if you dare. Jenna sat in her living room, her heartbeat echoing in the silence as shadows danced across the walls. She felt a pull, a magnetic force provoking her deep-seated fears to awaken. The old laptop, which she almost discarded years ago, flickered as if it too had secrets to share. It powered on with a chilling hum, revealing a cobweb-covered website, 7 Haunting Secrets of Crestwood. Her curiosity bloomed, blooming dark and perilous. She hesitated, gripped by instinct should she press play. The video began, the images murky and unsettling, casting a pall over the air. Whispers floated through her mind as she watched, each narrative escalating into horrors that prickled her skin. Children went missing, laughter that faded into screams, and reports of strange lights in the woods neared a crescendo of terror. It felt like something grounded in truth rather than fiction. Every word slammed against Jenna's chest, constricting her breath. The fear of losing Tyler gripped her tighter than ever. At first, she dismissed it as folklore, one of those tales parents spin to scare their children at sleepovers. But then came the principal, the seemingly protective figure she trusted, his face warped under the weight of these tales, narrating dark fables she had never been told. Suddenly the shadows surrounding the playground where Tyler played daily appeared menacing, transforming her peaceful suburban dream into a waking nightmare. Panic surged within her as the clock ticked ominously toward midnight. Tyler unknowingly stirred within the walls of their home, fingering his toy dinosaur, his lifeline in a world that felt increasingly threatening. The familiar laughter of the neighborhood kids fell eerily silent, the air thickening with unseen dread. Jenna's hands trembled as she glanced out the window, spotting flickering streetlights lighting up the night like warning signals. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jenna returned to the screen, a tremor fell over her spine. The website rebooted dangerously, a single phrase glared back at her: one secret remains. Protect your son, or lose him forever. Instinct screamed at her, conjuring the images of the missing children, Tyler's laughter mixing with the dark abyss that threatened to consume them both. Outside, shadows moved across the cul-de-sac. Familiar faces, once friendly, now took on dark intentions, their smiles veiling something evil lurking beneath. Before Jenna could grasp the unfathomable truths she unearthed, she felt a cold breath near her neck, chilling her to the bone. Panic gripped her as she turned and spotted a figure across the street, watching. It was an unmistakable friendly smile played out like a cruel joke against the backdrop of creeping horror. The whispers in her mind transitioned into a haunting melody, intertwining with an impending dread. Her imagination spiraled, and she could feel malevolent eyes boring into her soul, probing for weakness. With Tyler safe and sound just a room away, she stood at the precipice of a nightmare too large to comprehend. The clock told just past 11:30. Shadows stretched further, enveloping her in suffocating chaos. Would she confront the unforgiving truth lurking within the tales of Crestwood, or would the very secrets she discovered claim her son and seal their fates? Jenna's breath hitched as her eyes locked onto the shadowy figure across the street. It stood still, emanating a calm that twisted her stomach into knots. The eyes glimmered with a predatory light, as if analyzing every tremor in her stance. She could almost hear her heart thumping against her ribs, each beat urging her to retreat, to shield Tyler from whatever darkness lurked beyond the glass. What did they want with him? She tore her gaze from the figure and dashed to Tyler's room, each step heavier with dread. She opened the door silently, peering inside. The soft glow of his nightlight spilled warmth across his tiny form, blissfully unaware of the terror inching closer. His toy dinosaur lay discarded, but he clutched an old blanket, the worn fabric a comfort in the face of whatever was creeping toward them. "Tyler," she whispered, her voice barely cutting through the silence. He stirred slightly, mumbling incoherently, a fleeting glimpse of safety. But safety felt like smoke slipping through her fingers. Crowding the doorframe, Jenna felt the oppressive weight of the dark reality around her. Why were they coming for him? A sudden crash outside jolted her back to the present. Jenna's heart raced as she darted to the window. The figure was gone, but the sinister laughter echoed across the empty street, blending with the rattling branches, taunting her sense of security. Gripping the edge of the windowsill, Jenna scanned the neighborhood from her perch. Familiar faces emerged, neighbors standing in the darkness, eyes vacant and hollow. Their smiles were twisted caricatures, replaced by ominous grins that seemed to stretch too wide. They formed a semicircle at the edge of the woods, watching intently, their movements synchronized as if they were a single entity. Chilled to the bone, Jenna whirled back to Tyler. She knew she couldn't ignore what lay ahead. The secret she learned demanded action. Protecting her son was not just instinct, it morphed into a frantic necessity. She filled her arms with Tyler and bolted to the hallway closet, where she kept the emergency bag. She hastily shoved in flashlights, snacks, a small first aid kit, anything that might help them escape whatever evil seeped into Crestwood. "Mommy, where are we going?" Tyler mumbled, rubbing sleep from his eyes. The innocence in his voice cut her deeper than any knife. "It's okay, honey. We're just going for a little adventure," she lied, throat straining against the truth lodged there. Jenna grabbed her phone, praying for a signal, a connection to the outside world that might still be untainted, but the screen flickered, a swirling vortex of distorted images filling her vision before the device went dark. Panic surged, drowning her already fraying nerves. Darkness crawled in, the shadows whispering secrets she was desperate to forget. Just as Jenna turned to find a window, something crashed through the front door. It splintered open, and a gust of frigid wind burst into the house, carrying chilling phantasms with it, a flurry of shadowy figures engulfed in the swirling blackness. The whispers escalated into anguished cries as they filled the room, clawing at her spirit. Jenna's world collapsed into chaos. Clutching Tyler tightly, she could feel every heartbeat, his and hers, pounding in the terrifying resonance of inevitability. "Stay close," she shouted, and the air felt electric around her as she swiveled, ready to face whatever horror awaited them in the darkness. But as she stepped outside, the haunting laughter pierced the night once more, echoing the line from the website. One secret remained. Was it too late to protect her son? Panic bubbled inside her as the figures moved closer, their shapes shifting, growling low like wolves ready to pounce. Each step they took was a reminder that time was running out, and as the clock ticked past midnight, she realized with horrifying clarity she would have to confront the dark secret of Crestwood, or risk losing the one thing left that mattered most. With a final deep breath, she steeled herself. What awaited them in those woods? And what sacrifice would she have to make to unlock the truth? Jenna felt the cool night air close around them like a shroud, the laughter creeping into her bones as she stepped beyond the threshold of her home. The street lamp flickered erratically, casting shadows that danced grotesquely against the pavement. Tyler clung to her waist, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Mommy, I'm scared," he whispered, every word a tiny dagger piercing through her resolve. "Just hold on tight," Jenna urged, her voice shaking but steadying as she tried to mask her own terror. The echo of that laughter gnawed at her, a reminder that escape wasn't assured, that something hungry lurked just beyond the periphery of her vision. The figures in the distance advanced, their movements fluid yet unnatural. The neighbors' faces were obscured in shadow as if they had been carved from the night itself. She could hear them now, murmuring in unison, their voices blending in a chilling harmony that reverberated through her chest. Join us, Mommy!" Tyler cried, breaking her trance. She felt the warmth of his tiny hand slip as she turned to pull him closer. But even in that brief moment, she stared back in horror. The neighbors were nearer, vivid apparitions of an everyday life gone grotesquely wrong. Jenna propelled them forward, away from her home and toward the woods, the haunting laughter growing louder with each step. "We have to keep going, Tyler. We can't look back." Their feet crunched over twigs and leaves as they entered the darkness, the branches overhead twisting like skeletal arms. A rustle accompanied them, shadows slipping behind trees, watching. She could feel it beneath her skin, the sense of being hunted. "Mommy, I see something," Tyler murmured, pointing ahead. Jenna squinted into the dark. The faintest glimmer of light flickered between the trees, an invitation or a trap. "Stay here," Jenna cautioned, but Tyler shook his head defiantly. "No. I want to go." Jenna's heart raced as the silhouettes drew closer, their shapes melding into one another, the laughing lost adults moving as one. "Please, let us just go back," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. "Follow the light." Tyler insisted, his wide eyes glowing with determination, an innocence untouched by the horror enveloping them. Against her instincts, Jenna felt herself edging toward that glow, reluctant yet curiously drawn. As they approached, the light revealed a clearing, illuminated by a surreal glow that made everything shimmer unnaturally. In its center sat a massive tree, its bark gnarled and twisting as if alive. Hidden among its roots, Jenna spotted something glinting, something that beckoned her closer. "What is it, Mommy?" Tyler asked, practically tugging her toward the inviting light. Jenna stepped cautiously forward, her heart thudding painfully against her ribs. She knelt beside the tree, reaching for the object half buried in the earth. Her fingers brushed against cold metal, an old locket. Jenna ripped it free from the soil, its surface covered in dirt and scratches. She opened it, revealing a faded photograph of a woman. The woman wore an unsettlingly familiar smile, one that reminded her too much of herself. Jenna, a voice, cloying and soft, whispered from behind. She froze, the locket slipping from her hands. The air thickened, and the laughter emerged again, swirling around her as she turned slowly. The figures from the street materialized behind them, closer now, their faces shadowed but their grins stretching impossibly wide. "Join us, the truth must be claimed," panic surged, wrapping around her throat like a noose. Jenna clutched Tyler's hand desperately. "Run!" she shouted, tearing through the clearing as branches whipped around them and shadows clawed greedily at their heels, but the clearing faded behind them, and as they sprinted deeper into the woods, she knew one thing for certain: they were not alone. Something was with them, and it was hungry for more than just truth. Every heartbeat echoed in the silence behind them, tightening the space around her in a vice grip. The chase was on. But as Jenna turned to glance back, the figures began to melt back into the trees, laughter lingering like smoke. And in that moment, she realized this was only the beginning of the darkness enveloping Crestwood. What was hidden within those woods? What other secrets and sacrifices awaited them? Jenna and Tyler plunged deeper into the shadows of the forest, their breath ragged and their hearts pounding like war drums in their chests. The oppressive darkness wrapped around them, making each step feel heavier. The trees loomed overhead, their twisted branches reaching out as though they had minds of their own, eager to ensnare them. "Mommy, I don't want to be here," Tyler whimpered, his small voice barely cutting through the eerie silence. Jenna's hand tightened around his, her mind racing. She needed to find some way out, some salvation from the encroaching darkness. "We have to keep moving, buddy. They can't catch us if we run." But even as she spoke, the chilling uncertainty gnawed at her insides. The laughter echoed still, teasing, taunting like a cruel whisper on the wind. Suddenly, they stumbled into another clearing, smaller, yet the suffocating darkness hung thicker here. A pile of rock sat in the center, unnatural and jagged, arranged as if someone had made a ritualistic offering. Jenna felt her pulse quicken. It wasn't just the clearing that felt wrong, it was the air itself, thickening like fog, pressing in around them. She scanned the area, feeling eyes on her. "Can you hear that?" she asked Tyler, crouching down. The laughter had shifted, it was now a low, rhythmic chanting, words indistinguishable yet filled with a strange urgency. "I don't like it, Mommy," Tyler whimpered, his eyes wide. "Stay close to me," she instructed, her pulse racing as she stepped closer to the stones. There was something engraved on them, symbols that seemed ancient and laced with power. An overwhelming dread clawed at her, a warning to turn away. What was happening here? The realization she had stumbled into something far deeper than just her neighborhood collapse crept over her. The teasing laughter and the eerie chanting formed a mix that sent shivers spiraling down her spine. As if in response to her turmoil, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. The rocks shivered and fell silent. For a heartbeat, the world paused. Then, from the shadows beyond the trees, a soft voice echoed, sweet yet ominous. The time approaches, the time for the offering. Jenna felt an icy grip of terror slide around her heart. Offering? Were they to be sacrificed? She shot a quick glance at Tyler, who was trembling beside her, looking like a small, helpless creature caught in the predator's gaze. We need to go, now. She hissed, grabbing his hand and sprinting again, but the chanting grew louder with their flight, drowning out their hurried breaths. It felt alive, wrapping around them like a vine, growing closer with each step. The woods began to warp around them, paths branched off in twisted directions, erratic and sudden, turning the escape into a bewildering maze. Jenna's heart raced, and panic started to drown her logic. Which way? Which way? She cried. Tyler tugged on her hand insistently. This way, Mommy. I can see lights. Lights? Jenna followed the direction, desperation guiding her. What hope did they have? But she couldn't slow down. With every step, the shadows felt more oppressive, like hands gripping her shoulders, urging her to stop, to surrender. As they approached the glow, Jenna's heart sank. It was another clearing, larger than the last, illuminated by an unnatural light pulsing with each chant. The figures from before stood in a circle, swaying slowly, their features now clearer, but just as haunting. Their eyes glimmered with that same sickly sweet smile, stretching too wide, echoing desires that made her stomach churn. Join us, the voice sang, promising something she couldn't fathom. Frozen with terror, she realized the spot they stumbled upon was not an escape, but another trap. With her heart in her throat, she tugged Tyler back, but he broke free from her grip, moving toward the light as if entranced. Tyler, no. Panic burned through her, the laughter crescendoed, and in that moment, Jenna understood. It wasn't just her name whispered in the darkness. It was fate. As she lunged for him, intending to pull him back, a shadow lunged from the perimeter, its eyes glowing fiercely like embers. Jenna's scream tore from her throat as the creature closed in, longing for what it sought. She had to act fast. But could she save Tyler and escape the fate that loomed in the night? There was no turning back now. Would it claim both their lives, or could she break free from this nightmare? Time was running out, and darkness was waiting, hungry and patient. What would she have to sacrifice to save her son? Jenna lunged, fueled by sheer desperation. Tyler. The word tore from her throat, raw and frantic, but it barely cut through the din of chanting. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, teasing her with promises of escape, yet all she saw was the haunting light ahead and the hypnotic sway of the figures. Tyler hesitated, caught between his mother and the circle of specters. But it wasn't fear that held him back, that sickly sweet grin embraced him like an invisible chain. This wasn't just curiosity. It was something deeper. Something terrifyingly magnetic. With a swift movement, Jenna reached for him, heart pounding like the drums of war inside her chest. Come back. She felt the press of shadows around her, fingers of dread wrapping tighter. The closer she got, the more the creatures seemed to pulse with life, grotesque, beautiful, and utterly otherworldly. As she raced forward, the air shifted, thickening with desperation and fear. The ground trembled beneath them. The chanting amplified, a suffocating cacophony that pressed against her eardrums. The time for the offering. The voice cooed, seductive and cruel. Suddenly, Jenna felt a sharp pull at her ankle. She stumbled, glancing down in horror to find a tendril of darkness snaking around her leg, slick and unyielding like a serpent. Panic surged within her. She kicked and struggled, but it only tightened. The shadows groaned, resonating with a life of their own, as if they relished her despair. "Mommy!" Tyler cried, his voice cracking. With every ounce of strength, Jenna tore herself free, but the shadows clawed at her as she lunged forward, reaching her son. "I want to let them take you." She pulled him back, dragging him away from the allure of the circle. The figures hissed, their smiles twisting with rage. Fragments of the chanting morphed into wails of anguish as they realized their prize was slipping away. "Run!" she screamed, and they darted back into the oppressive darkness of the forest. But with every step, the path warped, branches reaching like gnarled fingers, ready to snatch them back into the waiting shadows. With every heartbeat, fear surged through Jenna. As they sprinted, she battled against the paralyzing doubt. What if she couldn't protect him? What if they were trapped here forever? "Where do we go?" Tyler sobbed, looking up at her with wide, tear-filled eyes, brilliance dimmed by terror. "Anywhere but here," she gasped. But as they turned, a hollow laughter echoed from the trees, raspy and cruel. Jenna felt the hairs on her neck prickling. She spun around, her heart racing. It was growing closer, that foreboding laughter. They weren't just being hunted. They were being played with. In a flash, Jenna spotted something in the clearing, the remains of a broken sign, half buried beneath leaves and debris. She choked on bile. It read, "Do not enter." It wasn't just a warning. It was a command from the dead. "Tyler, this way," she urged, her voice thick with fear. They dashed toward the sounds of the chanting, but Jenna's instincts screamed that it was a trap. The creatures from the circle had followed, moving with an unnatural grace. She felt their gaze bore down like daggers, monstrous figures that melded into the darkness behind them. Then she saw it, a hollow tree, inviting yet foreboding, with just enough space to squeeze through. It was their only chance. "We can hide inside. Quick!" They rushed to the tree trunk, but just as they reached it, Jenna glanced back. One of the figures, a tall shadow with eyes glowing like molten gold, was closing in, the wide smile never faltering. It extended a hand, beckoning, inviting her to join. "Mommy!" Tyler whimpered, his small body trembling against her. Adrenaline rushed through Jenna's veins as she pulled back, the darkness seeking to drag them both down. She could feel the bite of the tendrils creep back, wrapping around her again. "I want to leave you," she whispered fiercely, but the panic clawed at her thoughts. Just as they ducked into the hollow tree, the world convulsed around them. The air thickened, more suffocating than before, the laughing growing into a maddening roar. In an instant, the hollow felt alive, a heartbeat, drumming against the walls of their sanctuary. She pressed her back against the cold, rough bark, trying to quiet her breath. Then Tyler spoke, "Mommy, is it safe?" As Jenna pulled him close, she felt something slither between the roots beneath them. Cold and clammy. A whisper of hope flickered in her chest, but it was quickly extinguished by a more terrifying realization. The laughter was not receding. It was moving closer. What awaited them inside? Would the darkness swallow them whole, or was there a chance of escape? The hollow tree felt like a tomb, constricting around Jenna and Tyler. Outside, the laughter was relentless, a wicked symphony that teased the edges of her sanity. She squeezed her son tightly, feeling his warmth against the cold, clammy roots that coiled beneath them. The pulsing heartbeat of the hollow echoed in her ears, each thrum a reminder that whatever lurked outside was growing closer. "Mommy," Tyler whispered, quivering. "What are we going to do?" Jenna's heart ached for him. She racked her brain for answers, trying to think straight through the fog of terror. "We stay quiet. We wait it out. Maybe they will lose interest," she murmured, but her own voice sounded weak even to her. As moments bled into each other, the laughter morphed into a chorus of whispers. It was as if the shadows were discussing them, plotting their demise. Jenna could hear snatches of words, slithering through the crack in the tree. "Join us," offering be one with the night. Slick, icy tendrils began to slither around her wrists, squeezing her skin. She recoiled, panic surging anew. No, not now, but the roots beneath her seemed alive, pulling at her and beckoning her toward darkness even as she fought against it. Mommy! Tyler's voice pierced her thoughts, a shrill cry that sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. I can't breathe. Jenna focused on him, grasping his face with trembling hands. Breathe with me, she demanded, and they inhaled deeply together, slowly, forcing their hearts to calm against the chaos outside. They stayed like that, the world around them a cacophony of dread. Each time they heard a loud thud or rustle, Jenna's grip tightened. They might just leave, she repeated like a mantra, even as a gnawing dread settled in her gut. Then, without warning, the laughter spiked into a high-pitched cackle that seemed to echo from every direction. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, and she could almost see faces twisting in rage and delight. We can see you. A voice crooned, dripping with malice. Your fear tastes divine. The tree shuddered violently as if reacting to the taunts from the dark. Jenna pressed her back against the solid trunk, searching for an escape route with frantic eyes. Behind them, the hollow widened slightly, revealing jagged roots that seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers. Shadows writhed in sync with their whispers, and desperation clawed at Jenna's heart. Tyler, listen to me. We need to be brave. Whatever they are, they're trying to get us to join them. We're not going to. She said, but the conviction in her voice felt flimsy, like it could shatter at any moment. Suddenly, the laughter transformed into a chilling crescendo, rising until it felt like the darkness itself was laughing in triumph. A shadow darted close, a figure cloaked in the void, only the molten golden eyes visible just like the one that had reached for her. Join us, it hissed seductively, the voice wrapping around Jenna's mind like a coil. You cannot escape your fate. No. She screamed, and a surge of defiance filled her. But then, around her leg, a root snapped like a whip, dragging her down, trying to pull her deeper into the earth. Tyler screamed, reaching for her with tiny hands. Help! Mommy! Heart racing, Jenna tore herself free from the grasp of the shadows, pushing against the darkness wrapping around her. Hold on, Tyler. She had to reach him. She must, with every ounce of energy, she grabbed her son and yanked him toward the tree's opening. We have to get out. But as they bolted forward, the winds howled, surrounding them, pressing back. The laughter turned into an anguished scream, a thunderous wail that rattled Jenna to her core. Where are you going? The shadows crooned, darting toward them, flowing like a relentless tide. Just as they broke through the hollow, Jenna stumbled into a clearing bathed in ghostly light. The chanting pulsed through the air, pulling them back toward the forsaken circle. Figures loomed around the edges, their eyes glinting with hunger, clashing with the soft glow of the moonlight. Jenna was faced with a choice. She could fight or surrender. Heart hammering, she turned her gaze to Tyler. Never give in, she said, barely knowing if she believed her own words, but before she could decide, the shadows surged, and the truth of their nightmare loomed before them. What lies beyond the circle? What would it take to break free, to sever the grotesque connection? Time was running out. Would they be consumed by the darkness or find the strength to fight back? The clearing loomed large, a twisted tableau of horrors painted by moonlight and shadow. Jenna felt the shadows writhe, pulling her thoughts, squeezing her resolve like an iron vice. Tyler clung to her side, trembling, eyes wide and glistening with fear. Mommy, I'm scared, he whimpered, voice breaking like fragile glass. Me too, baby. But we're strong, she breathed, though a tremor shivered through her spine. The chanting grew louder, a low, droning hymn that seeped into her bones. We have to keep moving. Just follow me. But where? The circle appeared impenetrable, figures wrapped in darkness waving their arms, beckoning them closer. The flickers of gold and silver eyes glistened, a dreadful allure pulling Jenna like a moth to the flame. Join us, echoed the shadows, a chant that surged around her. Join us no. Jenna shouted, forcing Tyler to move away from the encroaching figures. She stumbled forward, each step heavy as the earth seemed to conspire against her. a binding force weaving through the dirt. The closer they got to the circle, the more frantic the chanting grew, rising like a storm. Sweat dripped from Jenna's brow, mingling with tears of despair. "Mommy! They want to take me!" Tyler cried, fear surging within him as he skittered back, eyes darting to the shadows. "No, they want tea!" She snapped, the fire inside her igniting. "Stay by me!" But as they retreated, the shadows shifted, their forms elongating, twisting with sinister grace. A gaping maw of darkness split within the circle, and Jenna lost sight of the figures as a brutal wind swept through the trees. With no other choice, she grasped Tyler's hand tightly and propelled him forward. "Run to that edge!" She pointed to a cluster of white birch trees in the distance, their trunks gleaming under the moonlight. Their breath came in ragged gasps as they sprinted. Jenna's heart raced, pounding hard against her ribs. Shadows lurked at the periphery of her vision, following, stalking. The laughter rose again, mocking, cutting through the air like a knife. "Faster!" she urged, feeling claws of cold air grasp at her ankles. The roots beneath them surged, snaking toward their legs. But something gave way in the clearing, a gap formed in the sinister dance, just wide enough for escape. The chanting began to dissolve into a cacophony of desperate screams, and it was now or never. They vaulted through the opening and tumbled into a dense thicket. The world behind them erupted in dismay, the shadows roaring in frustration as they surged forward to close the gap. "Mommy, they're coming!" Tyler cried. His small fingers tightened around Jenna's as fear coursed through both their veins. "Not if we can help it," she gritted out, eyes wild. They ducked low, crawling through the thick underbrush, branches scraping against Jenna's skin. But then, a brittle snap echoed from behind. Jenna froze. Tyler shivered, his breaths coming in rapid succession, each one louder than the last. "They found us," he whispered, trembling against her. With a surge of adrenaline, Jenna whipped her head around, scanning the darkness. The shadows were merging, forming a collective mass. It moved with a purpose, slinking closer, claws clutching the ground, eyes glinting like burning coals. "Run!" she shouted, pulling Tyler up. They stumbled away, hearts racing, but a merciless grip clamped down on Jenna's shoulder. She felt cold seep through her bones, shrouding her in despair. "Stay with us." The voice coiled around her like a serpent, thick and suffocating. "No!" she roared, wrenching away, but the shadows whispered sweet promises that beckoned her closer, teasing at the edges of her sanity. Through desperate breath, Jenna could barely comprehend the choice being laid before her. Would she shift into the abyss, give in to the swirling darkness to save her son? Or might she face that terrible unknown and risk it all? Each heartbeat was a countdown. Every moment spent deciding was a moment lost. "Mommy, please." Tyler sounded small, so very small, just a child against the vast horizon of terror, with a final, desperate glance. Jenna turned back to him. "Tyler, we have to keep fighting. Let us break free," she urged, but the shadows surged forward, closing in. What would they become if they fell deeper into the dark? Time was slipping through her fingers, and Jenna was faced with the terrifying possibility that the things that crawled from the edges of lunacy might not be the only threat they faced as they sprinted into uncertain escape. The true horror lay just beyond the shadows, shapes that had not been there before. Who, or what, lurked in the inky depths waiting to claim their souls? The night was far from over. Would they find a way out, or were they destined to join the wretched choir? The thicket enveloped them, thick and suffocating, a mass of branches that clawed at their skin like desperate hands. Each breath tasted of damp earth and fear. Jenna pressed onward, dragging Tyler behind her, the shadows still echoes in the distance, baying for their return. "Mommy, what is happening?" Tyler gasped, eyes wild as he stumbled over hidden roots. "I don't know, sweetheart. Just hold on tight," Jenna replied, her voice trembling despite her resolve. The laughter echoed again, cruel and mocking, circling around them like predators playing with their prey. Jenna's heart raced, each beat a drum of impending doom. They ducked beneath low-hanging branches, tears threatening to spill as she felt the shadows ripple closer behind them. Who were these creatures, and why did they want her son? As they pressed deeper into the trees, the air grew dank and heavy. It smelled of decay and despair. Jenna prayed for a miracle, for a way out of this nightmare that seemed to stretch on endlessly. The underbrush thickened, branches tangling in her hair, dragging at their clothes, as if the forest itself conspired to keep them captive. "Mommy? I can't run anymore." Tyler whimpered, his voice cracking and small, the brave front of a child shivering at the edges. "Just a little further, baby," she urged, determination surging within as she fought against the urge to break down. The shadows had to be wrong. They couldn't take Tyler. Not now, not ever. "We'll find a way out. I promise." The shadows slithered closer, their ethereal forms oscillating just beyond the trees. Jenna could see them now, indistinct silhouettes with sharp angles and glimmering eyes, like hungry wolves prowling for an easy meal. They whispered to her, their breath cold and alluring. "Come to us, be with us." "No." Jenna screamed, shaking off the compulsion to succumb. She glanced at Tyler, the small boy shivering at her side. "Keep moving." A rustle behind them quickened her pulse. They were gaining ground, she could feel it. Turning back around, Jenna pushed through the darkness toward what felt like a clearing ahead. Hope surged in her chest, but was quickly replaced with dread as she stumbled over a root and fell on her hands and knees. "Mommy!" Tyler cried, his voice a small beacon of terror. "I'm okay." She panted, scrambling back to her feet, but that relief was short-lived. The ground beneath her began to shift, the very earth trembled, pulsating with malevolent energy, as shadows lashed out. They were here, and now they were relentless. One sprang forward, a shapeless mass with glowing eyes wide and hungry, its mouth opening like a gaping abyss. "Tyler! Run!" Jenna screamed, shoving her son ahead of her. He darted forward, but she felt a heavy grip like a vice connect with her ankle, pulling her back. The darkness wrapped around her, cold and suffocating. Panic surged through her veins, igniting a primal instinct to fight. She kicked and twisted, finally breaking free, but the shadows were already trailing her, relentless, like a storm of dark intent. "Mommy!" Tyler's voice shrieked again, piercing through the chaos. She could barely make out his form now, silhouetted against the fading light. "Tyler! Keep going. Please!" But it was a futile cry. The shadows snatched at her like gnashing teeth. Just as she plunged deeper into the forest, a deep, guttural growl echoed through the trees. It wasn't just the shadows anymore, something larger, something worse was hunting them. As Jenna raced toward her son, a flicker of hope splintered through the darkness. Ahead, a flickering light danced, casting eerie shadows that leapt in time with her frantic heartbeat. "Tyler! That way!" She shouted, barely able to focus on the light that promised the potential for salvation, but as she darted forward, she felt the presence shift behind her. The shadows screeched, echoing rage that silenced the forest. But Jenna was determined. "Tyler, don't stop. We're almost there." The light began to pulse, growing stronger with each frantic step, allowing her to hope for safety. Yet, just as they approached, a figure emerged from the darkness, a massive silhouette, towering, blocking their escape. "Welcome home," it rasped, severing the fleeting hope slicing through the air. What new dread lay in wait for them? With nowhere to turn, the nightmare tightened its grip around Jenna and Tyler. Did they truly escape the shadows only to walk into something more terrifying? Jenna's heart sank at the sight of the looming figure. It was monstrous, twisted limbs, an unnatural body that oozed darkness, and eyes like molten silver boring into her very soul. The shadows shifted around it, coiling like serpents in the air. "Mommy, I'm scared," Tyler whispered, clinging to her leg, his small body trembling like a leaf in the wind. She wanted to answer, to comfort him, but the words caught in her throat. The figure took a step forward, the ground trembling beneath its weight. Each step felt like the beat of a funeral drum, slow and relentless. "Welcome home," it repeated, the voice echoing deep, resonating within her bones. It wasn't just a voice, it was a call, a beckoning, a promise of some twisted solace. Jenna grabbed Tyler, pulling him close. "We have to run, Tyler. Now." The shadows erupted around them, a tide of darkness clawing at their heels as they turned to flee, but the clearing seemed to stretch endlessly, taunting them. Each desperate step felt like a weight pulling her down. She could hear the growl of the creature behind them now, deep and resonant, drowning out all other sounds: her heartbeat, Tyler's whimpers, even the rustling leaves. Then, as if the shadows had ears, the laughter returned, echoing from every direction. "Flee all you want, little lost souls. You cannot escape your fate." Jenna realized, with a chill creeping up her spine, they weren't just being chased. They were being hunted. Tyler stumbled again, and she had to stop, twisting around in fear, ready to face the looming terror. What if it caught them? "Get up, baby. We have to go," she urged, panic looming larger than the creature behind her. Tyler pushed himself up, but as Jenna scanned for an escape, she saw them. More forms began to materialize within the shadows, their shapes muddled and hazy, but there was no denying their sinister presence. They were gathering, a vicious knot of eyes and claws, intent on their quarry. "Mommy. Please." Tyler cried, his voice raw. "Run." She shouted again, but her own feet felt heavy, as if dragging through molasses, as despair clawed at her heart. Suddenly, the pulse of light flickered, wavering in front of them like a siren. Did it promise safety, or was it leading them to their doom? Jenna had to know, she had to reach it. With every last ounce of strength, she grabbed Tyler by the hand and pulled him along, lunging toward the faint glow. As they stumbled closer, the light flickered violently, revealing a grotesque figure perched at its heart. The creature was beautiful yet horrifying, its skin luminescent against the darkness, a chilling contrast to the shadows around it. "No escaping here, dear ones," it whispered, voice like silk and venom. "You are where you belong." Jenna felt a chill grip her heart. The realization seeped in: the shadows weren't just an enemy, they were a part of this place and a part of her. With desperation, she hurled her body towards the light, the figures in the shadows reaching out, clawing for them, faces shifting from horror to recognition. They knew her, and she knew them, the forgotten faces in the night. "Mommy!" Tyler screamed, struggling to keep up as Jenna plunged into the light, the moment stretching, an eternity caught in an instant. But just as they seemed to soar toward freedom, darkness crashed over them, dragging them back into its depths. Jenna clutched Tyler tightly, and a split-second realization hit her: could the forest hold more horrific truths? More than shadows wanting them? The shadows surged, engulfing the pair as time folded in on itself. Jenna's screams dissolved into the cacophony of laughter, losing her voice in the dark laughter that circled around them. Did she just seal their fate, or was there still a chance for escape? The forest whispered secrets that begged to be discovered. Jenna and Tyler stood engulfed in the bone-chilling darkness that pressed heavily against their skin. The laughter mingled with the whispers of the forest, distorting the fragile hope she clung to. A tremble ran through her body as they faced the truth, a truth that threatened not just their lives, but their very souls. "Mommy, I'm so scared." Tyler's small voice broke through her haze, each word trembling with the weight of their situation. Jenna wrapped her arms around him, whispering reassurances that felt shallow against the encroaching terror. "Me too, sweetie. But we have to be brave." The magnificent tree in the clearing loomed over them, both inviting and ominous. It was a sentinel, a potent force that exuded an ancient power. It was here at the heart of it all where the shadows gathered, creating a chasm of fear. Jenna felt compelled to step back, but instinct pulled her forward. What if this was the key? "Tyler, hold my hand tight." She squeezed his small fingers, feeling the warmth of his spirit grounding her amid the suffocating darkness. Despite the terror, they had to confront the source of the whispering shadows. If they didn't, who knows how far into despair they might sink. Suddenly, a luminous glow erupted from the hollow at the base of the tree, brighter than all the darkness encircling them. In its center appeared glimmers of hope. A swirling mist pulsated in hues of silver and gold, an ethereal light calling to Jenna like a lighthouse in the storm. "Mommy, what is that?" Tyler whispered, his fear momentarily replaced by curiosity. "I don't know, buddy. But it might be our chance." Jenna stepped forward, the shadows receding slightly as the brightness enveloped them, creating an ephemeral barrier. "Stay close," she insisted, pulling Tyler desperately with her. The nearer they got, the clearer it became. The light was alive, and it pulsed like a heart, inviting but intimidating. As she reached for the light, cold fingers of darkness snaked around her legs, tugging with a cruel, insistent pull. "No. We won't give in," she shouted, fighting against their grip, but they only intensified, dragging at her body, whispering lies in her ear. "You belong with us, join us, surrender." Her heart thundered in her chest as hope battled despair. Glancing down at Tyler, she saw the fear etched in his features, but also strength. "Now, Tyler. Run." With adrenaline surging, Jenna pushed forward, pulling Tyler along as the shadows writhed, lunging at their heels. "We can make it. Just a little further." They broke through the threshold of light, and a wave of warmth washed over her, wrapping around them like a cocoon against the chill of the encroaching night. As they surged into the light, Jenna felt something shift. The shadows beyond screeched in frustration, their dissonant cries reaching a deafening pitch. But before she could glance back and assess their pursuers, a sudden quiet enveloped the clearing, and the frenetic energy that had consumed them melted into tranquility. A soft voice emerged from the light. "You are safe here, dear ones. The darkness holds no claim over you." The shimmering mist began to take shape, revealing shimmering figures, lost souls, reaching out with loving yet sorrowful expressions. Jenna recognized them, faces that were once familiar. "Mommy. Who are they?" Tyler's voice trembled as he clung to Jenna's side. They're here for us," Jenna whispered, feeling a mix of comfort and sorrow. "They want us to know we're not alone. We can find peace and maybe, a way home." But just as hope began to bloom, the shadows lunged at the edge of the light, sinuous tendrils extending, trying to breach the sanctuary the light had given. "No. You can't take us." Jenna's voice rang out, fierce with the strength of her love for Tyler. "Remember the light." The figures beckoned, their voices like music, urging her on. "Dig deep into your love, and you shall find your way." Jenna focused on those words, squeezing Tyler's hand. "We have to remember who we are, Tyler. You're my brave boy. We won't let them have us. We're fighting together." They began to step forward, wrapping themselves in the guise of the warm light. The tendrils of shadow recoiled, hissing as if the light had burned their very essence. Tyler stood tall beside her, the flicker of innocence sparking strength in her heart. "Mommy!" he exclaimed, pointing at the hollow tree. "The light is coming from there. We have to go in." Before her resolve could falter, Jenna nodded fiercely. "You're right. Let us go together." They charged toward the hollow, the predators behind them screeching in frustration as they tried to gain their ground. Their journey toward the light felt eternal, but with every step, the shadows thinned, their darkness losing its strength. As they reached the hollow tree, the warmth enveloped them completely, and Jenna took a deep breath. "Hold on to me. We're breaking the shadows together." Just as darkness loomed to swallow them, they plunged inside. The light engulfed Jenna and Tyler, bursting forth with brilliance and sending forth ripples of power that shattered the grip of the shadows. They screamed, screeched, and dissipated into nothingness, leaving only silence and warmth behind, and just like that, in an explosion of light, the darkness vanished. Jenna opened her eyes, blinking against the brightness. They stood back in their living room, the nightmare stripped from her reality. The laptop still hummed, but the Sinister website had gone dark. She glanced around, her surroundings unchanged yet profoundly altered. "Mommy?" Tyler tugged on her sleeve, eyes wide, but Jenna's heart swelled with triumph. It's okay, Tyler. We made it. In that instant, shadows of doubt receded, and there, in the gentle embrace of home, she pulled him close. They had faced something unspeakable, together. The strength they had forged would guide them forward. As Jenna gazed out into the softly lit street, she finally exhaled the burdens of fear. The memories of Crestwood would linger but become tales of survival, a bond forged in the crucible of darkness. They would not fall prey to the shadows again. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next gripping stories that await you. Smash the like button now to keep this channel alive and thriving. The algorithm loves it, and so do we. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about these haunting secrets. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who crave thrills and chills. Don't wait even one more second to share this captivating journey. Only true fans understand how vital your support is for our community.